that duos will just roll in afterwards, and it's going to be, you know, really, really easy for you to find yourself a cheeky amount of shields and loot as well. So really, really nice so far. Pink actually going to get the reboot, but he's going to try to get away.
And did you see that? That's insane. That's a new mechanic. I'll explain in just a second. But Pink almost getting an us up. Thomas HD did not have a line of sight on Pink right there. He shot a tree behind him. Some trees actually fall down like logs and end up doing damage, displacing enemies. And because of this awesome lumberjack type action, Pink has now gone into a completely different game. He was about to be with a teammate up, ready to loot again. One chop of a tree, one block, and now he's just gone.
Yeah, and I'll be real to you, Pink. It's not great. If you want to be able to call a spot Pink split, you got to really, you know, be able to put in the work there. He takes down Snazy there, which is obviously going to be nice, but wasn't able to get his teammate Anas up. There will still be time to do that in this lobby, but initially here, Pink and Anas not getting off to the brightest of starts.
Thomas and Taysom, though, they're looking really good, just racking up all the show possible as well. Chuck Splashes, if you guys have been keeping up with the content that Fortnite Competitive has been putting out, you will know that splashes have kind of spread around the entire map now. It's not just Slurpee and a few set POIs that have them. It's the majority of the map now that can kind of benefit from free metal, from the free shield as well. And as a result, every player has a lot more minis to work with, and they need the extra boost. A lot of the time, Levin, if you were watching round 2, these games end up with 40 alive in like the second last zone still. Like it's going crazy. No one wants to go down. It seems like people are fighting for their life, and it's just the quals.
Look, people understand what's on the line, right? An opportunity to play in that finals is huge, and so making it through those games was tough. You know, some players might even find that these games are a bit easier than those, if anything, with just how intense those got. So, look, we'll see how these games sort of stack up in terms of players left alive as we get to those later zones. But yeah, round 2 was really, really difficult.
Yeah, let's specify the line, though. What do these players need to do? What are they shooting for to make the finals?
Honestly, right, in terms of getting that top 8, you want to make sure that you are consistent across these next 6 games, right? You know, we've talked about certain teams being very aggressive, certain teams maybe not being able to get as many eliminations as they'd like. Ultimately, it comes down to who's going to make these end games, who's going to rack up them points when it matters. And it's no easy task. There's many different routes and paths you can take towards doing that, but that's where you want to be. You want to be in those end games, get into 5th zone and beyond. And so Floki Clement, a team that's on our screen here, a duo that's actually, you know, played with each other last season throughout trios, they're definitely a team out of Chonkers who you'd expect to be able to make it to those phases of the game.
Yeah, I feel like Clement and Floki specifically are finally free now, all the way at Chonkers. Before, it seems like they were trapped by so many people around them, forced to do things like Letchi is right now. He's in an all-in situation, going down. Unfortunate. But, you know, it just seems like a lot of teams are now in a different spot entirely and get to play their games out with a fresh new set of stakes. Yeah,
Gogos and the Click and Swilliam. That is not ideal. Letchi, one of the fan favorites, you'd say, in the competitive community around Europe, but off to a mediocre start right now out of Chonkers. It's going to be difficult, right? You know, Boop in the pre-show talked about how at some of these POIs you don't necessarily have to fight, and that's true, right? If everybody has that mutual understanding, but as soon as somebody steps on your toe, you know, you got to respond, you got to retaliate, and unfortunately, Letchi wasn't able to there, so they will be back to the lobby. Kami, Seti, and Teak, this is really interesting. Of course, they have access to a Whiplash vehicle from their spot, and the reason why it's so great is because you can see how they're just able to traverse so much land in such quick time, get all the way across the map if necessary. Of course, the Whiplash allows you to boost as well if you need to really go the distance, and this is something this is just, you know, basic competitive Fortnite mechanics. You can see he's picking up the fireflies, right, to, you know, hit the trees, make sure that they burn down. It means just more lines of sight, more vision, more opportunities to get yourself some surge tags. Just basic fundamentals there, but if you're at home and you're trying to get a bit better, something to pick up on.
Absolutely. Now we'll see a little bit of aggression coming through. Tooth on the back foot. Freestack actually pushing up, but this is the danger of trying to engage from a fight from such long range. A third party from the right side actually makes their entire push just turn into a vortex of shots. Now Future and Tooth have a little bit of that high ground, can't turn around, middle of a match, just hold them down. This is just unfortunate, already burning through those splashes. It seems like a little bit of an all-in already. The loadout from Tisa not looking good here on the top right. Putrick is looking high and mighty though. He's fine, just waiting this out.
Yeah, this is one of them situations where Tooth and Putrick do have the advantage up above. They can put the pressure on, and it's going to be really hard for Resac and Thiessen to actually put on a contest here. But they're going to play the waiting game, and they have time. They're in zone. No need to rush. No need to make any rash decisions. But it's going to be difficult here. Of course, you can see Putrick Zeus going to continue to farm loot up. They've not got their full loadout set. Going to need to get some materials as well. Putrick struggling in that department, but in the meantime, they've got to worry about the players below them.
This is not the worst spot to just kind of base up and chill for a moment. We'll be shared on both sides in terms of just making sure each team can stay alive in this building, and a good vantage point for Putrick more than most. Right now with NK 7, he can just look out at anyone he really wants to, take a few tags here and there. Andy with a pick up in the feed as well. So fights are still breaking down across the map, but this is where things start to might get a little bit slower overall. You want to make sure you're not making too many mistakes. You're talking about that loot level. I don't think Putrick can afford to take trades right now. You just need to land shots and be careful, because that shield amount is not that high. If that goes lower, the mat count is not that high either. There's not much left to farm until they actually get into an engagement down below. They're kind of stuck. It doesn't look like it, in a pretty tough spot.
Yeah, at this stage in the game, you know, you really want to be on much higher amounts of materials than 17 builds, which is what Putrick's on. So, you know, I wouldn't say you start hitting the panic button, but they have to start thinking of a plan. How are they going to get their material count up? Because if you get to endgame, that's all good and well, but if you can't get there with some good resources, you know, it's going to be a dire situation. You can see here, zone pulling towards the south. Rocky Reels just in, Greasy Grove just in, and all those players north going to start making their way down. Noah Riley and Aqua, one of those teams that will have to make that rotation at some point, and you can see them starting to make their way on now.
Yeah, this is like the part where I love watching Aqua the most. Whenever the zone goes into this little crunch style, right? Actually going a little bit more central, not going towards one of the biggest sides of the hemisphere of the zone. You don't have to go right or left. Everyone just needs to move in. Aqua ends up getting some crazy positions. It's from that point where sometimes, you know, Levany makes that call, let's just, you know, go height. Let's just forget everything and try to go for a main objective, no matter how risky it is. Before that, though, this is where I think he's the most cerebral. Him and Noah Riley are going to be moving in ways no other team really can. I'm curious to see exactly where they choose to set up and why they do. With 75 players still alive, more importantly, 38 teams, it's going to be pretty tight in terms of where they can actually, you know, just make a castle.
And you can see they're not white lining the zone, right? They are going, you know, further south towards the southeast, and you know, that's a conscious effort to actually go out there and make sure they have good positioning away from a lot of the players in the lobby. You can see here some fights going on in the zone. This is the stuff that gets rough, guys. You know, it's not easy going for everybody in the lobby. You can find yourself in those sticky situations outside of the safe zone, and you saw right there what can happen. It doesn't work out well a lot of the time.
This team talked about a little bit as well. Mustache and Malabuka, who, yeah, I kind of agree with Reese's take in terms of one of the most impressive teams that we've seen this entire season. If you look at Cash Cup placements, if you just look at the synergy these guys are rocking in with, it seems like every Cash Cup has a little bit of a different theme. Sometimes it's a little bit more Elam heavy. Sometimes the zones are kind of strange for everyone. No matter what the problem is, though, Mustache, Malabuka, they're there to adapt, and they look really good. Pink and Anasto, in this instance, still stuck all the way in covert. Joe and Vino, it seems like everyone that's been pressured by Thomas and Tayson is left behind in the storm or having trouble bringing their way back into the game.
Yeah, it's funny. We talk about how Covert has so much loot that, you know, you can come back at any point and find something, but, you know, we're starting to get a bit extreme here. Of course, you know, these guys will have a long way to go in terms of getting out, but there are vehicles available, and we'll expect them to start making those moves now. Pink and Anas, Joe and Vino, both two great teams, right? Two very interesting teams. Joe and Vino actually won round 2. That was just before this, so they'll be looking to try and, you know, match that momentum, keep that pace up. It's a bit of a rocky start. We saw off spawn, they got out-dropped by Tayson and Thomas, which isn't great ever. But unlike most people that go up against Tayson and Thomas, they were able to get out of it alive.
And you'll notice, too, if you're watching a bunch of these teams in Storm, there's a hissy noise. Your headset's not broken. Your speakers are fine. It's MedMist, which is a new addition to the season. It helps a lot of teams who like to have that little bit of zone play, especially in the early game, able to do that and then move that much more as well. It makes your scouting a lot better. It lets you get these items, do the strats that Levin's talking about, especially in the end game as well. You can stay active, follow your teammate, which is one of the most important things, especially in duos. You get lost, it's not like you have an extra support beam to kind of latch onto. You have to really stick side by side with your team, and you can dip in and out of the zone at full speed with the mist. So it's a huge addition. Joe will choose to use it at the start just to bolster up, as Levin mentioned, an unfortunate drop that got beat by Tayson and Thomas. And then now they're looking good inside the zone.
And we're seeing the effects of having that scuffed early game, right? You know, of course they are above on Surge, which is, you know, great positive, but you look at the loot, you look at the materials, in terms of a pathway to winning out this game, things get really difficult, right? This isn't going to be the easiest of journeys for them. At every stage in the game, you're going to be thinking, okay, how can we win this game with what we've got? If they're looking at that right now, there ain't many avenues, so where they go to farm, of course you can see some brick here that they will definitely take at any opportunity, but plenty more still to be done. And of course they got teams ahead of them in the zone trying to hold them back as well.
And imagine if like players could see the mat count that people have, like especially in the near zone. If people knew how many mats Joe and Vino had right now, they would not be allowed. Too short to go on the ride for this moment. No rally Aqua. Look at this, bro. We blinked for what, a minute and a half? And they're at a god spot that shouldn't exist. Like, is this allowed? Do we have to have like a handicap on anyone Aqua plays with? Like, it doesn't matter what org you kind of insane. No rally on a different side. This man's an expert fighter though. They're just letting this other team simmer. Just absolutely swelter in the heat. And now it's Scram who's in trouble. Ref's guard below him. Aqua finally safe. And Noah Riley is about to go on the attack.
Yeah, Aqua did a good job there to just hold them off. He knows that those are two players that don't have many options in terms of time, and so Ref's guard and Scram will go down. It's a shame to see them fall, one of the longest standing duos we see in this lobby. They had literally played the last two FNCS with each other, which was years ago now, so they go down in this first game, but Noah Riley and Aqua doing a really good job there. Teams often overplay those situations, right? You know a team around you, you know, is fighting for Surge, and you give them what they want. You give them the fight. These guys did brilliantly there just to hold them off, let the time tick down. And now, on their journey to winning this first game, things are looking pretty good. Matt's looking good. Surge dealt with. And Spider-Man Mythic in hand as well, which we know how good these can be when it comes to those moving zones.
Absolutely. It's a full 10 charges of them too. So take a look at a little bit of the Storm that were happening. This is the specific one we just watched. Scram, so much in the inventory still. Everything ready. Unfortunate for him. The Achi's going in as well with Pixie. Unfortunate here too. It just seems like they're so close to having a little bit of an in at the end of the day, but it's just not possible. And that'll happen to so many teams around. This is insane though. Two big predictions, two big teams that everyone wants to be doing well. Cammy and Teak head to head with Hen and Queasy, Levin. I do not want these guys to fight this early. Yeah,
this is not a fight a lot of people want to see so early on. Two of the strongest teams in this lobby, for being real, right? If you're looking at just the who's coming into this with the biggest hearsay, these two are the teams that you would say.
Yeah, and if we're looking at the Jenga tower structure of this game right now, pressure. Joe and Vino, who we saw before, who are all
Peak going down.
It kind of changes the way the whole lobby plays. Teak and Cammy, if you guys have watched any of these players play, specifically even Teak in duos in DreamHack from last year, right? This man owns, like, he claims the space that he's on, right? He's a very active force, a loud man on the low ground. And, you know, if he's not around, that'll give a lot of people more room. If he is, though, Levin, that's where things get freaky.
Yeah, these guys are great, right? Cammy probably been the best player so far in this new chapter in terms of just solo and duo performances. As you can see here, Andy definitely looking good, right? Of course, again, got that Spider-Man Mythic like we talked about. And they've already gotten 6 eliminations in this game. Most points of anybody else in the lobby. So already, some teams are coming in with the hot hand, ready to take on anybody. They don't care that it's a lobby filled with phenomenal players. They just want to come in and get some points.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only them, you know, looking hot with the elims. They look hot in general. Look at the left-hand POV real quick. Something I want to update you with. Those numbers usually mean nothing. They're just like, you know, what the team came in with and might be a team tag for them. This is now a specific live leaderboard type thing you can see. Those glowing lights from the sky, the number one besides the Andy and Zcod right now, are showing you that they're the first place team so far in the lobby. Not every other team can see that. It's just for our POV. It's just for everyone back home that's watching. And with these elims, that is why. That's why they're so far ahead. Everyone around them, their place, their number beside their name will also be changing as the game goes down. So you have a little bit more perspective. You don't have to do math. There's no more homework while you watch the game. We can kind of just see exactly what the stakes are and how the game actually is rolling out.
Sounds to me like Shio ain't a fan of homework.
I'm not, man. Hey, do your homework, first of all. But you can do stuff you're not a fan of, right? You know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta, get it done. Right now, Andy, I don't think he's a fan of this situation. He's gonna be in first for just a little bit. It might not be too long. He's already down. This is tough.
Yeah, his teammate goes down, and that leaves him all alone. And look, we've seen solo clutches so far in the season in Cash Cups and a lot, but in this kind of lobby, from this zone onwards, from fourth being a solo, it's not gonna be easy. He's got the resources to make it work to some degree, but he would rather be in this kind of position here. Janice and Vortex just 2 below, but they'll be able to sort that out with some ease. 100 above now, as you can see.
I'm going to bring back a word that you mentioned up 11 at the very start of this. It's called adaptation. I feel like this duo right here, it absolutely envelops that entire aspect. The very start of the season, they were the best, I feel like, out of the gate with their job, with the way they played, how they meshed well in terms of just looking at the duo type of scene in general. And now it feels like even with this spot, they've adapted to this lobby absolutely perfect.
Yeah, this is brilliant. They pull zone, and of course they are just tinkering along that line of being above and below on Surge, but you can see Vortex and Janice, very capable players, especially when it comes to their ability to aim. The MK rifles as well will be put to good use, and from this position they've pulled zone. It's looking really good setting up for this endgame, and a lot of other players would really want to be in their position right now, if we're just being real.
It's tough overall though for a lot of teams. You're going to be thinking about what to do next from this standpoint. Even though you do have the zone, this is rocky reels. This is one of the more difficult sections of endgame when it comes to the map. Lots of mountains randomly getting into the way. It's not going to be the extreme of some of the big cliffs you see around the entire Fortnite island, but you won't expect obstacles coming straight out into your way. There's a lot more open sight lines, so there's more opportunities for Janice just being an absolute beambot right now. This is crazy. Reason down to just a sliver of HP. That was Vortex that was shooting there for just a second. My apologies, but you look at either one of these players, Levin, they're just online.
And that's brilliant, right? Exactly, knowing that they have the power position, players are having to rotate into them and using that height advantage to perfection. Brilliant, brilliant stuff there from Vortex and Janice, and that's going to continue on throughout the rest of this one. Andy, though, right? We talked about the tough task he has on his hands. 5 charges left in that Spider-Man Mythic. Should be enough to get him through first moving if he uses it right. But he's just got to stay alive. He's got to make sure nobody figures out that he is a solo, because once they do, I'm telling you, they won't let him live for much, much longer. So he's just got to stay quiet here, just, peeking around, making sure he has the information where players are, but not trying to be too overzealous, not trying to make himself too big of a target.
He's got max pull now, though, and you saw that big overhead look on the left side just before. There's a no-man land he needs to get through. There's an entire slew of, 20 different duos that are going to be right in front of him, and in high ground that's going to be looking down, and that's Janice and Vortex, so don't let anyone move around whatsoever for free. To give you a kind of lowdown on who is just popping off for the moment, Tayson just got a big elimination onto Gogo, it seemed like right before, who actually eliminated Fast Roki, so there's a big power dynamic over there, and he's now on the move on the top side. He's going to get pressure all the way back in the storm, has the Spider-Man gauntlets to use, actually has a rough landing, and then gets beamed down. Unfortunately, that's where that first place run ends.
Yeah, we knew that was going to be tough, rotating inwards, even with the Spider-Man players taking advantage of the fact that, he's in the air, he's vulnerable. And as we switch on over here to Tayson and Thomas, this is what I like to see from them. Oh, I spoke too soon. Thomas will fall straight through, take some fall damage, but he will be able to rekindle with Tayson. 8 below isn't great, but that should be fine as they move on over to that first move-in zone. They've made their way through. They found some good positioning as well. Tayson just tarping ahead. We talked about how he will lead and Thomas will follow. But now it's going to be time to look for a refresh. Their mats are dwindling, and you can see them going towards the back of their tarp, looking for opportunities in the zone right before the second move and starts to pull.
Snake of a tarp, with fangs at both ends. looking for the first edit, tries to find a little bit of damage. Looks like Taysom might have seen a little bit of something. Mustache, though, goes down. 2 duels on the right side to stare in the way that they won't be able to climb. No damage there. It's just unfortunate. It looks like Vidil ends up stealing that elimination. They have to keep rolling back. Got a little bit of total damage, though. 91 as they actually move up in layers. Tayson's going straight for the sky. How high are they planning on moving with this one? Rightful down in the feed. Vidil picking up another. Janice is still active with Bubak going down. Every big name is here to play.
Saw how proactive Taysom was there, making sure as soon as the zone started to move, he was ahead of it. And this is why they want to position them in the front side, cut off any teams and get refreshes just like that. They will take Lazen down, and that's not going to be it for them. They're looking for more. They get that loot, and the mats are going to be really, really beneficial for them. So many players going down though, Shayo. It's absolutely hectic, but these guys are trying to find a sprinkle of control.
While they go into the chaos, Thomas now down to 1 HP. It's all up to Tayson, who actually got out of the way before the horror show started back in those boxes. It's going to be just him with 300 wood available and a little bit of brick too. The tarp's going to be a little bit dangerous this high. He might have to just fall all the way down. Who's there now? It's Vidil, it's Reason, the yin and yang rolling in, just knowing exactly how to aggressively tear a lobby apart. They're not in first though. That's going to be a team all the way down low. Might be pressuring Tayson in front of his wall. Armor on the right side, goodbye. No chance for pressure there though. Tayson now has 3 different walls to focus on. Will he switch layers? Yes. He's all the way down to just 200 mass now, so every single wall will be absolutely crucial. Every single shot might give him a little bit more of a chance to stay in. Finds a healing enemy right before the wall places. Tayson's almost back in the game. Yes, it's a whole bunch of materials. High ground now is only up in his sights.
Like
it's going to be tough for Tayson, but he's making it work. A shot from the backside. He blocks it off with the ramp. It still goes up for a little bit of a height take, then drops down. This man is like an active Lego set. He can adapt and move and do anything that he wants to do against 8 different teams.
I don't know how Tayson stayed alive for so long, but this is what Tayson does. We've seen him get crazy clutches, and even with these absolute monstrous teams above him, Tayson continues to find a way to stay up. Vidil and Reason doing a brilliant job of stopping anybody from usurping them on height, but now it's all eyes on Tayson. He's going to drop down very, very shambles. Only got wood left, and he's trying to make himself as inconspicuous as possible. Doesn't want anybody to lay eyes on him, but he knows he will have to hit a big shot at some point. Zone is going to continue to pull, and things will get even more difficult as teams start to scurry their way over. Tayson just trying to sneak his way through on the front side. He's got a decent position right now, but it's not over. He has to get through, and he's going to start running into teams as he's on this low ground. He knows there's a team ahead of him in zone, and he needs to just try to find that right angle, that right shot. He's trying to squeeze it in. Only 23. That's not going to be enough, and so he chooses to dodge the fight, get up to his own builds, but he runs right back into another team. Tayson, you can't hit these shots. You can't keep staying alive, and he will go down. Tayson doing a brilliant job there, but it wasn't enough. Vidil and Reason now will look to close out the game, and they're going to need to get the eliminations as well as they do it.
They're going to try to take that first place spot from Phoenix down below. That low ground team just needs to stay alive. They'll have enough placement with the Elam combinations to take away that top spot for now, but Raisin actually goes down. Cammy is still alive. The trade comes in, and now it's a duo v solo, looks like, situation. One teammate knocked, thrown off to the side. Reason gonna be trotting all the way down, looking for that last shot. Phoenix is on low HP. These guys are absolutely flawless. Perfect from the high ground. What a way to kick off EU with the most aggressive duo of history rolling in and taking that first game.
I can't believe they've come out and actually done it. Reason of a duo that many people doubted coming into this season, and they haven't quite been able to prove to people that they are still one of the top dogs, but I think this is just a way to shut the haters up. First game, first win, a brilliant way to start it off, and some brilliant displays from some of our other top teams. You can see Cammy and Teak as well. They ran deep into this game, and they got some crucial points, but it was Vidil and Reason who won that first game in brilliant fashion as well, Shayo.
Absolutely. Lots of different surprises in that game, though, to break down all the action. We got the desk with Zeke, Reese, and Boot.
I feel like I betrayed Reason and Vidil. They were my options for predictions coming in on the day. And then I looked at the leaderboard, the leaderboards here, and I saw no Riley and Aqua, and I faltered. And you know, Vidil, Reason, that's on me. Okay, my apologies. I don't know why and how I forgot how incredible you guys are at the game, but you just showed everybody why you should be one of the duos to be considered going into the finals. My goodness. Really quickly, before we talk about this game, we talk about those highlights, those beams that were very easy when you're watching. You're like, those guys are in first place? I love that. I love that. Now, back to the game, of course. My goodness, this first one was crazy, Reese. I think coming into duo format in the brand new round of FNCS here, qualifier number 1, that was a pretty good way to start the competition.
Yeah, and what I find interesting is the fact that Vadil and Reese, and kind of as Levin alluded to, were really good at the start of the season, made top 10 in 3 of the Cash Cups in a row, and then after that, where did they go? They vanished. They disappeared. They didn't put in the grind. They didn't practice. We know this chapter is very much so focused on who can do what, who can actually practice. This time, just going up on the high ground, absolutely dominating. Interestingly, only 5 eliminations, which from a super frag heavy team is almost like half of what you would expect. I was waiting to see 10 eliminations, and it was just 5. Yeah. Oh, I'm underwhelmed.
I mean, those guys, they sort of struggle in finals lobby sometimes, right? They did win those cash cups, but we know them ideally from trios that they struggled with Surge. But this time, I mean, it was a very good zone for them. And this was a zone right near Rocky Views here. And that is, I mean, these guys land Condo Canyon, right? So they're just going to be in that area. They have the best spots in the map. There's a ton of little hills and mountains basically in this area where you can just box up on, right? You can see the absolute congestion there on the south side of everyone trying to play dead side. But in the middle, you know, there's so many of those good players, but those zones, those are tough to play if you're just running from outside of this spot. But Video and Reason, I mean, expected to do well from there. I mean, they got zoned, right?
Yeah, and interestingly on top of that, right, you're talking about teams who did well from that area. Cammy and Teak, they actually dropped the Cammy split, as we've obviously mentioned at the top of the show already. Super close here. This was a really good zone for them. And also that, they capitalized on this. Super good game for them too. 6 eliminations. Now, on average, Cammy and Teak in the Cash Cups have been managed to get 3 eliminations per game. So coming out of the gate with a 6 elimination game like this is looking super strong for them. Third place is like very average for them, right? These guys are getting deep into end games. They're super consistent at making sure they are able to get those good placements, right? Like a third, like we've just seen here. The eliminations that they're popping off with right now is them on an absolute tear, and I'm excited to see the consistency that we know these guys can do from FNCS champions.
Absolutely. We got to take a look at this leaderboard, and this is actually something that caught me by surprise, right? Raisin and Phoenix ending the game with 8 eliminations, but look across the board, fellas. You've got another team in Stena and Red-Eyed MDR as well with 8. So we're seeing a lot more of this early aggression like you guys have kind of hinted at. How are we feeling about this first game?
And eliminations coming through strong as always. I did see at one point that beam that you were talking about going over Raid's head. He was in first at one point during that end game, and obviously that 8 eliminations was the driving force behind that. If they can manage to keep that kind of flow up game after game for all 6 matches, these guys can easily hit that top 8, which is the important qualification threshold.
Got like 32 points.
That's right. We'll have to see how things continue to unfold. Didn't mean to cut you off there. Boop.
It's all good.
Sounds like the bus is ready to go. So when we come back, I'm coming to you first. Get ready for it. But for now, gotta hang out with Shy Wager and Levin 2K. We got more of these games to play for you.
Thank you so much, Zeke. Always unexpected faces in that first game that upped the ante, Levin, up the stakes for everyone else. And now it's time for the legends of the duo scene to play catch-up.
Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see how some of these teams bounce back after that first one. Of course, you know, I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't have expected to see Stena and Rayed out there with an 8 elimination game, but they went out and did it. And we know it's possible this season. The right combination, the right chemistry in endgame can lead to so many eliminations. So let's just jump right back into it. We got game 2 on the line, baby. Let's go.
All right, game number 2 is on the line, and we kind of got to play.
What the? Did the game just crash? What? Yo.